Dear learners, welcome you all to e-learning platform. We are going to start new semesters with week 1. The course which I'm going to take is 19th century literature. The course code of which is ENG 403. Me, Faisal Ahmed, with you throughout the whole lecture. Faculty member, Department of English, World University of Bangladesh. Let's begin. This week we are going to learn about the historical background of the Victorian era, the time span of which is 1830 to 1901. Lesson overview: 19th century and Victorian age, historical context, social context, and literary context we are going to discuss throughout the slides. Victorian era was a time of change from the Romantic era. London becomes most important city in Europe. Population of London expands from 2 million to 6 million. Shift from ownership of land to modern urban economy. Impact of industrialism. Increase in wealth. World's foremost imperial power, which the Great Britain possessed during that era. And the era named after the Queen Victoria, during which the whole Indian subcontinent was under the rulership of British imperialism, and Bangladesh and Pakistan were part of the Indian subcontinent. Victorian people suffered from anxiety, a sense of being displaced persons in an age of technological advances. So this was also an age of science. Here you can see a portrait of Queen Victoria, and now we are going to learn about the Victorian temper. Queen Victoria ruled England from 1837 to 1901 until her death. Exemplifies Victorian qualities: earnestness, moral responsibility, domestic prosperity, which she established in the society of Britain. The Victorian period was an age of transition. An age characterized by energy and high moral purpose. The Georgian period, immediately after the Victorian era, from 1911 to 1936, a reaction against the achievements of the Victorian period, was observed during the Georgian period. The early Victorian period, the time span of which is 1830 to 1848. So here we have divided the Victorian era into two parts, the early period and later periods. So the early period is 1830 to 1848 and the later period is 1849 to 1901. In 1830, the Liverpool and Manchester Railway opened, the first public railway line in the world. So steam engine was invented and railway was launched for the first time in the world in Great Britain, especially in Liverpool and Manchester City. By 1850, railway lines connected England's major cities. By 1900, England had 15,195 lines of railroad and an underground rail system beneath London. The train transformed England's landscape, supported the growth of commerce, and shrank the distance between cities. The Reform Bill of 1832 transformed English class structures, extended the right to vote to all males owning property. Second Reform Bill passed in 1867 extended right to vote to working class as well. So human rights were established during the Victorian era. Laws were reformed, society were polished and advanced, and civilized as well. Female member of the society also got education, started to get education in this era. The time of troubles, which is 1830s and 1840s, unemployment, poverty, rioting, slums in large cities, working conditions for women and children were terrible. As the industrialization rapidly began during this era. So with the development, there were troubles as well, troubles and tensions among the people of the society. Impact on Victorian literature. The novelists of the 1840s and the 1850s responded to the industrial and political scene. Charles Kingsley, The Water Babies, Elizabeth Gaskell, North and South, Life of Charlotte Bronte, and Cyril, written by Benjamin Disraeli. The mid-Victorian period, 1848 to 1870. So this was a time of prosperity, a time of improvement, a time of stability, and a time of optimism. The Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace was erected to display the exhibits of modern industrial science at the 1851 Great Exhibition. One of the first buildings constructed according to modern architectural principles. So this was an example of modern architectural principle. The Crystal Palace. The building symbolized the triumphs of Victorian industry in the architectural arena. The British Empire, you can see the map here. So British Empire was really very vast, which ruled most of the part of this world, including the Indian subcontinent. Many between 1853 and 1880, large-scale immigration to British colonies. In 1857, Parliament took over the government of India and Queen Victoria became Empress of India. Many British people saw the expansion of empire as a moral responsibility. Missionaries spread Christianity in India, Asia, and Africa. Religious debate. Evangelical movement emphasized spiritual transformation of the individual by conversion and a moral Christian life. Their view of life was identical with dissenters. The High Church emphasized the importance of tradition, ritual, and authority. The Oxford movement led by Newman. The Broad Church was open to modern ideas. Utilitarianism, derived from the ideas of Jeremy Bentham and his disciple James Mill, the father of John Stuart Mill. Rationalist test of value, the greatest good for the greatest number. Utilitarianism failed to recognize people's spiritual needs. So people became realist and spirituality just started to disappear from the mind and psychology of the people. So the money-oriented society or culture began from there. I mean, since the Victorian era. Challenges to religious belief. Science threw a challenge towards the religious beliefs. Huxley, Darwin, The Origin of Species and the Descent of Man. So the publication of Darwin's books just gave a threat to the religious beliefs. In addition to Huxley, higher criticism, examination of the Bible as a mere text of history, source studies, geology, astronomy. So all other field of studies began to emerge. The late Victorian period from 1870 to 1901, decay of Victorian values. That means that was another transition from the Victorian era to the modern era. British imperialism also came to an end.